Okay, everybody, welcome back once again to the Rotary Club of Baton Rouge. I'm your club president, Haggai Davis, welcoming you to our virtual meeting. Today's invocation will be given by Phil Frost, and the pledge and four-way test will be led by Stephen Winkler.
Shall we bow our heads, please? Lord of the universe, at this time with natural disasters across our country, including wildfires on the West Coast, our neighbors to the west in the wake of Hurricane Laura, and our neighbors to the east who are experiencing Hurricane Sally, we ask that your hand of protection be on all. During this time, leading up to national and local elections, when we consider what philosophy we will follow and support, help us to understand that no matter what name it is given, the philosophy called the Golden Rule is indeed the most true guidepost by which we should mark the trails of our existence. Remind us today that that concept, if it were universally held as a standard by people of all nations and faiths, there would be no wars, no riots, no hunger, and no crimes against one another. We pray that you continue to bless the work that we as Rotarians do to help those less fortunate, for we believe that one manifestation of this golden rule is our Rotary model, being service above self. Today, we especially thank you for BREC and for its mission to continue to provide a healthier, more vibrant community by providing exceptional parks, open spaces, and recreation experiences for all East Baton Rouge Parish. We thank you and ask you to be with our speaker today, Superintendent Corey Wilson. And finally, we ask you to guide those who, as our government leaders, make their daily decisions that affect us, so that their efforts shall be motivated by this same golden rule, which encourages the great rule of charity and goodwill to our neighbors near and far. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
And now Stephen Winkler.
My fellow Rotarians, please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now, the four-way test. If the light at the intersection is blinking or is out completely, what are you supposed to do? That's correct. Treat it as a four-way stop. Now, the Rotary four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Okay, we have a few announcements here before we go to our introduction and our speaker. We are, unless something changes between now and October 7th, we will be going back to a physical meeting at Drusilla's. The meetings will be on a rotating basis as far as prioritization. The club has been broken up into 4 groups. You will be notified as to which group you're in. The group one, the first week group, you'll have 4 days to RSVP. You'll have first priority to RSVP. After the initial four days, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to RSVP, then we will open, if there's remaining spots, we will open that up to the rest of the club. And there is a hard cap of 100 people maximum in the room. That includes the speaker, that includes me and the person doing the technology, all of those things. It's 100 people. There will be a mandatory wear your mask. The doors will not open until 11:30. Normally in the past, we had been opening at 11. The doors will open at 11:30. You can still congregate and socialize and network in the room that where the buffets were set up before. But once you go into the main meeting room, we're going to ask you to go straight to a table and sit down. At that point, you can take your mask off when you're at the table. Then there will not be a buffet. You will be given a choice to either have a salad, a full plate of salad with the protein on it, or a normal entree, lunch plate with the protein and vegetables kind of thing. And you'll have to make that choice when you're doing your RSVP. You'll have more details about all this as it's coming out. There will be no guest allowed for these while we're first getting back. There will be no walk-ups. If you do not have an RSVP in advance, we will have printed out name tags. We won't be using the badges. On your name tag will also be your lunch designation. So it's going to be critical that we follow these guidelines while we're coming back to being in presence meetings. We will still do the virtual meetings for those not comfortable. We had the survey went out. It's been a 2-to-1 response with almost 260 people who have responded to this meeting. 2/3 said yes, they would attend. 1/3 said they would not be comfortable attending. And that's perfectly fine and very acceptable. That's why we're going to continue to be doing these virtual meetings like this, in addition to the in-present meeting at Drusilla. Another announcement, the Hurricane Laura Relief Fund. Our club has donated our club members have donated $13,225 up to this point. Our foundation is matching an additional $10,000. So that's $23,225 that our club is going to be sending directly to the Greater Lake Charles Rotary Club for them to do with what needs to be done over there. They're on the ground. They're much more capable and very, very, it's not pretty over there. If you haven't been there, if you haven't seen any of the video, I was there this past weekend, and those folks need all the help they can get. And Lord knows what Sally is doing to the Florida Gulf Coast right now. We'll probably be, doing the same kind of thing again. So with that being said, I'd like to turn this over to Davis Rohr to introduce our speaker. Davis?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm Davis Rohr, and besides my profession as Director of Downtown Development District, I also serve on the BREC Commission. Last year, the BREC Commission voted unanimously to appoint Corey Wilson as the 6th Superintendent of BREC in the agency's 70th year history. With a budget of some $95 million and an organization that has approximately 1,000 employees, there are a host of projects and programs underway. Certainly, these are different times, and he will touch on BREC's response as well during COVID. A graduate of Morehouse College and Harvard Law School, he is a founding member of the Baton Rouge College Preparatory Charter School, a member of 100 Black Men, a 2014 graduate of the Chambership Leadership Program, and many, many other initiatives. Rotarians, please join me in welcoming one of our own, Corey Wilson. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us here today. I'm always honored to give you guys updates on what it is we're doing here at BREC. A lot has changed, to say the least, since we last spoke last year. And so I just pray that this message will be received and everyone is healthy and safe out there. We can go to the next slide. And so we'll be talking today about BREC's response to COVID-19, as well as just give you an update on what we've been doing since the pandemic has started. And so just to bring you back in time, on March 11th, it was a Wednesday, we sort of had our first case here in Baton Rouge, and news was spreading. We had already had a team meeting scheduled for that Friday, March 13th. And so as things was getting a little intense, and so by 2 o'clock, the governor had announced that schools were closed. And by 3 o'clock, our team meeting was held in a different room, just sort of spacing out. By the time we came back on Friday, it was evident that things were moving rapidly. one of the things we were fortunate to have, and we don't think about this often, but Phil Frost, who led us in prayer today, he's the chairman of an international organization of zoos in terms of international species information systems, and so Phil has the benefit, and BREC, and as a result, the community of Baton Rouge has the benefit of being able to connect with people all across the world, including in China, where some of this stuff was starting. And so Phil was able to share with me, hey, I think we're closing, and he shared that information before the end of the day, Monday. We received some additional information, and we made the decision on Monday, March 16th, to close everything down. I share that because, shortly thereafter, March 22nd, the governor made his announcement to shut things down. And so we were a little bit in advance of that, focusing on the safety of our employees as well as the rest of the community. And so some of the things, and so immediate closures was one of the things that we first did. Next slide. Obviously, communications in crises is one of the most important things. We learned, as I shared with you last year, part of the reason when many people were asking, why would you take that job? Why would you take that job? One of the main reasons I took the job is because of the team that I knew I would be sort of working with and helping lead. A team that I had worked with in 2016, right after the floods, and a team that I had worked with doing some intense discussions about the location of the zoo. And so we had been through the battle together, and you talk about crisis situations, sort of highlight the character of people, and that was no more true than it was for us here at BREC, as our team shined. And you should be proud of the park system that you have in place in terms of the people that are leading the system. And so all during the program, parks had to continue to be cleaned and maintained. The uses of parks increased, not only here in Baton Rouge, but also across the country and even internationally. So as that use increased, we had to continue to maintain parks at the same high level we've always been doing. We had animals to feed, not only at the zoo, but at the horse park, Bluebonnet Swamp, and other areas. And we never stopped construction or maintenance. One of the things that, we were happy to see, based on the CDC's recommendation, the governor here in Louisiana and governors all across the United States included outdoor activity as an essential activity. And so there was getting food, there was getting water, there was getting medicine, there was going to work, and then there was outside activity. And so we were happy to see. We've always known the benefits of parks, and from not only a health perspective, physical health, but mental health as well. And so we were happy to see that was so pronounced in the governor's orders, and happy to see that people followed those orders and got out and was using our parks more than ever. We talked about construction continuing. I was fortunate enough to listen to Dr. Scott give his economic outview of Louisiana yesterday. He talked about the importance of construction to our economy. When we think about BREC, we think about the parks and the health and wellness, but the fact that we do, $20 million a year in construction, it's a big boost to our economy. And there's just a list of things that we've been doing here in the parish. Next slide, please. And so let's now talk about our focus on public health during the pandemic. Next slide, please. And so we had a Play It Safe campaign where we signage. I was fortunate to participate on once it was a daily, and then it became every other day, and then it became a weekly call with National Park and Recreation Association and park directors all across the country to find out what everyone was doing. And we all agreed that signage was one of the things that we can do more of. And so we emphasized more signage in parks about adhering to the CDC requirements. We also included some encouraging signs you may have seen if you had an opportunity to get out to our parks, recognizing the heroes and encouraging people from a mental aspect for their strength and courage as we're all going through this global pandemic for the first time. Next slide, please. Hopefully the last time. And so on March 22nd, when the governor closed everything, we were fortunate enough to talk to some of the governor's advisors and talked about whether or not we should close golf courses. And the governor and his team encouraged us to the extent it was an outside activity, social distance can be maintained, encouraged us to keep golf courses open. But because it was a shutdown across our state, we decided to out of all safety precautions and to support the governor's message, we closed golf courses on March 24th. We also did it because it allowed us to better prepare ourselves to serve customers when we did reopen. So, you know, got a lot of plexiglass, a lot of hand sanitizer, and sort of rearranged our operations to limit the amount of times people would come in. And golf courses reopened about a month later. So we were closed the entire month of April, which is our busiest and most profitable month. Next slide, please. And just right before I get off of golf, because I don't know if we mention it later here on, now that golf has reopened, we are operating at a historically high level in terms of the number of people that are playing, as well as the revenue that we're generating. So hats off to our golf department, who again, operating in the pandemic with a lot of different operations in terms of wearing masks, working behind plexiglass, engaging customers outside and not coming into the clubhouse, more frequent cleaning of golf carts and those sort of things. Hats off to those guys who are serving more people now than they've ever served before, and doing so in some restricted operations. One of the other things we were fortunate to do, and you may have heard about 3 Oclock Project, they reached out to us sort of first before they've now connected with multiple school districts, all not only in our parish, but across the state. And so they've served meals since the beginning of the pandemic, quite frankly, at more than 15 of our parks, many other locations. We helped them with different routes. As you can see, over almost close to 1 million meals have been distributed. So we were able to shift quickly and use our parks in a way that we had never used them before. But we were fortunate enough to have those facilities to be able to do that. Also partnered with Healthy BR and Top Box as it relates to distribution of foods and food deserts. Next slide, please. We have an urban farm at Howell Community Park, which also plays a vital role in terms of creating food access and some food deserts. We have that location has seen increased activity during the pandemic as we try and address those sort of inequities surrounding access to healthy food. Next slide, please. So just want to let you know what we've been doing in terms of programming. Obviously with we had facilities closed, and how are we going to engage and continue to program people from an entertainment as well as an educational and health perspective. And so staff, again, able to quickly adjust and turn into and provide virtual summer camps, which we did all across the parish at a variety of our facilities, including the zoo and many of our other special facilities and community centers across the parish. Those were well attended. I received many messages from the community telling about how great our virtual camps were, and they were surprised that they were also a success. When we were able to go to phase 2 in July, we were able to do in-person summer camps. And again, a lot of different safety measures put in place to ensure that, one, staff was comfortable enough to provide this service, which in turn allowed both kids and parents to feel very comfortable in terms of dropping their kids off. And so a lot more outdoor activities, obviously fewer kids, fewer locations, but it was a needed service for many during the summer, and we were glad we were able to provide that. Next slide, please. Our refresh campaign, which you'll see on our website. Last time I checked, we had well over 50 videos, and maybe a lot more there, but all types of different experiences. Many experiences as we provide, we try to make as many of those virtual and online as possible. So there you can see, you can learn about different parts of a horse, which I did not know about, but also skills, learn how to skateboard and those sort of things as well too. Next slide, please. And so we had several programs for teens, and you can see some numbers in terms of participation, all virtual programs. There's that online athletic takeover where we had many of our local superstars from LSU, and some that even played in the major leagues, provided some training videos. So we were very excited about that. We also did quite a bit of adaptive and inclusive online things, as isolation is a significant issue during the pandemic. A lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, and so we were able to address that not only by encouraging people to get outdoors and do activities, but also being able to engage people online virtually. So very proud of our team for stepping up to help in those areas. Next slide, please. Our arts program was very active online as well. You see a picture there of Broadway veteran Donald Jones, who did some question and answer events online for us as well. But we had a lot of art programs, theater programs, worked with the Arts Council on some programs to help with their virtual Ebb and Flow Festival. And our observatory was also quite busy during the pandemic. Next slide, please. Supporting our community. So, as we entered phase 1 on May 15th and then phase 2 shortly thereafter, on June 4th, things got a little bit out of hand, and we had another surge, which led to closing of other bars as well as mask mandates. And so during that June and July period where it was very difficult for all of the parish, certainly from an economical standpoint, we did a call for partnerships where we basically reached out to everyone and said, let us know how we can help you. They had many organizations that we're currently working with now who either lost office space or lost, they couldn't. And so we've partnered and are working on several partnerships agreements from that as an effort to try and help those leveraging the assets that we have. We did a blood drive as blood was a need during the pandemic. We also did food and mask distribution, again, as masks became mandatory. Several elected officials across the parish reached out to us and were able to provide masks to a lot of our citizens in the parish. So we were able, actually very happy to be able to participate in as many ways as possible to serve the community. Next slide, please. Some additional things we did. We encourage, we have the food trucks. And so, again, trying to spur some of those small businesses, restaurants that may have been required to close. We reduced our fees for those food vendors to operate in our parks. And that was a very successful venture as well. Again, from an educational standpoint, we've heard a lot about the lack of Wi-Fi for a lot of our households. And so BREC has a lot of public Wi-Fi at many of our parks. And so we partnered with organizations to expand some of our current offerings and encourage people to, similar to the library, whether it's parking in the parking lot or getting close to the facility as possible, to have that free public Wi-Fi access. And again, as testing became so important, we were able to work with Our Lady of the Lake, Oshner, as well as the mayor's office to utilize several of our parks, even here at our administrative office, Womack Park, to do some drive-through COVID testing. And that too was very successful. So again, several different ways we tried to support the community. Next slide, please. There you see some pictures of some staff of ours at the zoo that called me immediately after Hurricane Laura caused significant damage to the Alexandria Zoo, and said, hey, you know, these guys, as well as several zoos across the country, came to help us following Katrina, following 2016. And so without hesitation, we allowed our staff to go out there and help the Alexandria Zoo recover as well. Next slide, please. And so I just want to talk to you about some very exciting transformative projects we have in store that are quite close to hatching. Very excited about. Again, just a reminder of the many construction projects that obviously require significant planning and designing. And again, I don't, you know, when we talk about this, I want to, you know, just let you know everything we're doing is because the community has requested it, and in some cases we're improving things because we believe our community deserves to have nice things. And so we've been around. It'll be 75 years next year. A lot of our infrastructure is old, and so we try and replace and repair and keep things as current and nice looking as possible because the community deserves it. And we know the benefits of having those things in the community from a very, you know, many different benefits, not only from health and wellness, but economics, safety, environmental, and the list goes on and on. So just wanted to mention that there. Next slide, please. Trails and greenways. So again, in 2004, when we went out to the community for the IYP and did our strategic master plan, trails was the #1 item. Again, in 2014, trails was the #1 requested park amenity. And so we're doing a lot. We recently just passed the bike and pedestrian master plan, working with both DOTD and City Parish and some consultants to develop that plan. We now have a plan for over 250 miles of off-road trails that BREC is responsible for implementing, and we are already well on our way to implementing many of those trails. Next slide, please. And so, yeah, I'm sorry, I go back just a quick second on the Blueways. We are one of the trails we are excited about are different Blueways. We have one at Highland in terms of a boat and kayak launch. Well, not a boat, kayak and a canoe launch. Same thing at Shack we're working on. And as you'll see later on, we're doing something similar at Airline Highway, providing access to Bayou Fountain, as well as Bayou Manchac and some other tributaries. Our conservation areas have been very popular in the trails in terms of we have very, you know, I've been able to participate in many of those. Great mental benefits from walking outside in the woods as well. So I encourage you to get out and explore some of our conservation areas if you haven't already. Next slide. So we show a very exciting trail here that we're working on this year, and hopefully you'll see construction on in 2021. A trail that will connect North Baton Rouge, Scotlandville Parkway, all the way to downtown, downtown East, as we like to call it, right near Memorial Stadium. So goes in front of Exxon there and sort of that buffer area. And so we're very excited about this as we talk about not only connectivity, but equity as well, in terms of having nice trails in the northern part of the parish and connecting to our downtown. Very excited about that. We were able to leverage the tax dollars we received from you to get a grant of more than $3 million from the federal government to help support the construction of this trail. Next slide, please. The Lakes Master Plan is moving forward. Commissioner Aurora will be faced with a vote here a week from tomorrow in terms of a cooperative endeavor agreement between BREC, city parish, LSU, as well as the state, in terms of improving the health as well as the recreational use of the lakes there by dredging them, making them deeper. We had a slight, well, I guess it wasn't slight to the fish. I was going to say a slight fish kill, but it probably wasn't slight to the fish. So about 50 fish died just because shortly after some of the weather we had, where it was cloudy, lack of oxygen in the water. And so that along with the algae problem will continue to be an issue until we dredge the lakes, which you see, we have a plan to start that process here in the fall, and hopefully start construction around this time next year. So very excited about this. We're also will improve the safety of the walking and biking around the trails, which I know is a big issue too. And so very, very excited to collaborate with other public agencies and leverage your tax dollars to provide, again, great park amenities that the community not only needs but deserves. Next question, next slide, please. Another project we're excited about. We're going to have a new safe room. These are some FEMA hazard mitigation dollars city parish was able to obtain, again, working collaboratively with other government agencies, where this will serve as a safe room, a place where emergency personnel, not the public in terms of not a public shelter, but emergency personnel, sort of a command center, if you will. Hurricane strength walls will be constructed, but 99.9% of the time it'll be a state-of-the-art recreation center right here at Memorial Stadium. And so $15 million project. Again, those type of federal dollars are reimbursement dollars. So, you know, we have to have the 15 million to even pull it off. But we're looking forward to doing this one. And we have another one. Next slide, please. Next slide, I'm ready. Another one is at Airline, but here I'm showing how Rec Center and Pool, how the Howe neighborhood right off of Winborn and Ardenwood here received the most damage as a result of the 2016 flood. Our recreation center there at Howe had more than 8 feet of water in it, totally damaged and destroyed. But as you may imagine, FEMA came in and took a look at it and said, you know, basically, if you just rinse the walls off, you can, well, it wasn't that simple, but they did not think it was totally destroyed. And as a result, we did not get significant federal dollars for Howe Recreation Center. And nonetheless, because we have operated in such an efficient manner, with the tax dollars we receive from the public. We were in a position to say, hey, this community deserves a nice recreation center. And so we are tearing down the old one. We have torn down the old one and are building a brand new recreation center here with a pool that will be constructed to potentially be enclosed in the future. And so very excited about this project, which should start construction here in the next 30, 60 days or so. Next slide, please. Another casualty of the floods of 2016 was out in the central area, which was hit very hard. We had just bought a little residential home that we were going to turn into a nature center and have some programming out there. But the 2016 floods, I had a different idea. That structure was totally engulfed in water. And again, a home of about $200,000, $300,000, FEMA did agree that that was totally destroyed. But here we're going to build a state-of-the-art nature conservation center where well over $1 million. That building looks so cool to me. As you can see, it's well off the ground, well above the flood elevation levels, and that construction too is starting soon. It'll be a bit of a challenge as you have to go under railroads to get to this area, but it's a beautiful area, as you see on the picture to the left, with both the A-meet and the co-meet connect. And if you haven't been out there, I encourage you to take a moment to spend some time out there, especially while the weather's about to get nice here in the next, hopefully 30 days or so. Next slide, please. Again, another exciting project that we're working on. Again, working with other local, state, as well as federal officials here. As a result of the I-10 widening project, it will have an impact on some of our parks. So we've been working with DOTD to outline some funding that we'll receive to make improvements to this park as a result of some of the impacts that we will receive. So we'll be making significant improvements to Expressway Park. We'll be developing a trail that connects Expressway Park to East Polk Street Park. And the most exciting thing, we'll be connecting East Polk Street Park to City Park. And so excited about this project as well, and being able to connect East Polk to City Park and providing that access as we talk about connectivity across the parish. Next slide, please. Here's some pictures of what some parks under interstates look like. And so very excited about bringing this type of stuff here to Baton Rouge. Again, our community deserves these kind of great park amenities, and we're happy to be able to provide it. Next slide. So we talked about the strategic plan and the information we received from the public in terms of the needs. One thing that was identified both in our 2004 and 2014 plans was a need for another community park in the southeast portion of the parish, as that portion continues to grow. And while we have Highland on one side and we have Forest on one side, there was still a service gap. And so after looking for property, and it's tough to find property out there in that part of town, we ultimately landed on improving Airline Highway, affectionately known as the State Fairgrounds, to become our next community park. And so when you say community park, again, think Highland, Perkins, those parks that are large in nature, have multiple amenities that you can spend multiple days exploring and enjoying different type of things. So we're excited about the possibilities at Airline especially as it pertains to the management of storm water. We look to be, this will be sort of our signature project as it pertains to our capabilities there. And I believe the next slide talks a little bit about that, maybe. Yes, and so this whole idea in terms of designing for resiliency and in terms of being able to bounce back quickly from natural disasters, primarily flooding here in our area, which is a priority that I think we all can agree on. We want some solutions to. And so we plan to play a big role in that. We have in the past, and going forward, every park we design, we keep in mind the capacity of water it can hold and how do we handle that water so that it does not flood our homes as well as our businesses and commercial properties. Just as a reminder, I believe the next slide shared this with you guys last year, but just a reminder, in 2016, you see we almost held 10 billion gallons of flood water in the 2016 flood in all of our parks, enough to fill LSU's Tiger Stadium 71 times, and that's at full capacity. That's not at 25% capacity. So we were excited to be able to continue to provide another benefit to the parish through the use and design of our parks and facilities. Next slide, please. And so the project, we're sort of our premier project right now, the largest project in the history of BREC is the improvements that we're planning at Greenwood as well as the Baton Rouge Zoo. We've talked about this for years now, and we are now at the point where we're looking to do a groundbreaking here in the next 30 to 60 days. Very, very excited about kicking this project off. Again, we completed a master plan that was approved and accepted by our board, showing a phased approach, obviously, but more than $200 million improvement of a zoo to bring it up to today's standards, as well as $100 million of improvements to the park, including some of those resiliency improvements in terms of holding more water at this park, expanding the lake, but also creating some very innovative, imaginative experiences, not only for the residents in that community, Baker, North Baton Rouge area, but all over our parish. This will be a regional attraction that we expect many people from all over our area, but all over the country to come and visit. Next slide. So one of the things we're excited about, and one of the biggest things of the first phase, which we anticipate will be somewhere between $35 and $40 million, is we're changing the entrance of the zoo, bringing that to the middle of the park now. And so you'll be entering the zoo off of Highway 19. There are some images of some improvements that we're making at the zoo. We talked a little earlier about the zoo, and the zoo did open in phase 1 on May 15th. And as that previous slide showed, we had a celebration scheduled for late March, April, celebrating 50 years of the zoo opening on Easter. But as you know, COVID and the pandemic had different plans for our Easter, so we were unable to do that. But we did move forward with once we were able to open in phase 1 with our plan of 50-cent Wednesdays in June. And just for your information, every Wednesday throughout the year is $1.50. We do that from an equity standpoint. It is for a certain amount of hours, but if you have a family of 5 or 6 and you can't afford it, we offer that opportunity. And so this past June, we had the highest attendance in the 50-year history of the zoo. Part of that is people wanting to get out and experience some outdoor activity, but a large part of it is just the level of service that is provided at the zoo by both Phil and his team. And so talking about some of the improvements that are going to take place in phase 1, see some great images there. Next slide, please. Oh, so yeah, and so just the new Entry Plaza. The slide, the picture to the right is what it looks like after you go through that beautiful entrance. But we're very excited. Significant amount of funds will be allocated towards addressing some of the issues in the accreditation report, and so look forward to reapplying for accreditation here in the near future when the construction is complete or near complete. But there are several great, exciting things about the zoo. And so I think I left a little time. I believe the next slide is my last slide. It just shows an inventory of everything that we have. But I did want to open it up for questions and address any questions you may have. Or not quite sure how the question and answer period works. So
Lou, I'll read the questions for you here.
Okay, great.
So Paul Arrigo says, thank you for supporting us and assisting and hosting major events. What are the plans for improving or updating or enlarging Oak Villa?
And so I appreciate that softball question, Paul, because we are in talks right now with a private local organization that is interested in helping us renovate Oak Villa in terms of turfing the fields, improving the lighting, as well as improving the parking lot so that we can host more local as well as out-of-state and out-of-parish tournaments. We do recognize that is a significant economic impact in terms of parents coming to spend the night, as well as eating at our local restaurants and using our local grocers and stuff like that. So again, just leveraging our tax dollars, working with private organizations as well as the philanthropic community, but also investing some of our funds to participate that would encourage others to work with us as well. So should hopefully have some news here in the near future about a potential partnership of not only improving Oak Villa, but some other baseball operations across the parish. That is one of our major sort of next steps in terms of our athletic facilities and being able to host something here in Baton Rouge. We do a great job of that with soccer, but we do know Baton Rouge is sort of the best place in the world for baseball talent. And unfortunately, we don't have we do host many tournaments at Oak Villa, but we can do a lot better job in that area. So we're looking to improve that facility soon, Paul. Great.
Jerry Hobdy asked, so will MOSEP be housed in the safe room at the Park Memorial, or is it just expanding near the Independence Park?
Yes, and so thanks for that question, Jerry. MOSEP will not be housed there. Again, it'll be totally run and operated by BREC 99.9% of the time. Now, when a disaster hit and MOSEP says, hey, BREC, get out of there, we need it, then yes, we will turn it over to MOSEP during those times. And so they will have first priority during those emergency events, but they will not be housed there permanently.
Holly Dutchman wants to know, when do you think the construction at the Airline Highway Community Park will begin?
Great question, Holly. So right now we're still in the planning process of that. One of the things that I believe is sort of our secret sauce to being successful throughout our 75-year history, and sort of the foundation was laid by Mr. Gene Young, who passed away earlier this year. So pay my respects to him for sort of setting the trail. But the planning and the community engagement input is so important to building something that the public wants to use, right? You have to ask the public what they want to see. So right now we're in the middle of that process. There will be probably here within the next 30 days or so, you'll see something inviting you to provide input and information and come to a public meeting about what you want to see at Airline Highway. So we're doing some of that internally with our staff and some of the smaller groups like the State Fairground and the Air Gun range that is out there. But we will be coming to the public soon to say, what do you want to see? We expect that planning process to go throughout the end of this year. Next year probably is going to be attributed to designing the entire. Once we get the input, we'll have to design it. So construction, to answer your question, may not start until the last quarter of next year, 21, and maybe even the first quarter of 22.
Jerry had another question. Jerry Hobdy, BREC is expanding public-private partnerships in some very innovative and ways, increasing equity investments. She just wanted to thank you for that.
Yes, you're welcome. And so, yes, I certainly encourage all of you as business leaders in our community, if there are ideas about partnerships and leveraging the public resources that we have to better serve the public, we invite you to share those ideas with us. As Jerry mentioned, we've done quite a bit of innovative things in terms of partnering with hospitals and partnering with schools, whether it's just simply providing office space for somebody or operating a brand new entire program, whether it's BREC doing operations on their facility or they're coming to BREC and doing operations. And so there's no limit to the amount of partnerships we have. That's our number one goal. We now have a special division devoted directly towards partnerships, so we can be more intentional about entering into partnerships and measuring those partnerships and ongoing communication to make those partnerships as successful as possible. So we are, as they say, we are open for business.
Right. Marvin Borgmore wants to know, how do we plan to fund the Greenwood Park Zoo improvements?
And so thanks, Marvin, and good to hear from you. Hopefully I can see you in the real world here soon, pretty shortly, maybe as soon as October 7th. Huh? But in terms of funding the zoo, and so the board did approve the plans that were developed with community input last year, which had a price ticket of $200 million for the zoo and $100 million for the park. Because we have operated in such an efficient way, serving the community and not reducing the level of service there and being able to address the needs of the community, we have some funds reserved that we can contribute to the zoo. Now, we don't have $200 million reserved, but we have committed, at least I've publicly committed, the board still has to approve this, and we expect to bring that to them before the end of the year. But being able to show them how we can use $35 to $40 million of our reserve to fund the first phase. And so the first phase will be funded totally by BREC through use of some of its reserves. Our intent there is to show the community how serious we are about these improvements, but also to show the community the success of that first phase, the potential vision of what phase 2 and phase 3 look like. We are in the process of reevaluating and restructuring our entire fundraising operations. As you know, Marvin, working closely with both the Friends of the Zoo and the BREC Foundation to put us in a position to be able to not always have to ask for tax dollars, but put us in a position to be able to go to philanthropic partners and private businesses to show them the return on investment for donating some funds. And so that will be our next step. And hopefully we can do that and get some momentum going. And I think we'll be successful and take it one phase at a time. So we got the first phase covered. Second phase is scheduled for 23, 24. We hope to be in a position to show the community that, hey, we've gone out and raised some private dollars and maybe look forward to the community supporting phase 2 as well.
Ken Best asked, has the issue of what to do with the dredge spoil from the city parks lakes has been resolved? And if so, what is it?
No, Ken, great question. I'm guessing you live around the lakes and are concerned about the smell of the dredge there. And so where we are right now, there's an RFP. Again, all of this is contingent on Metro Council approval and BREC board approval in terms of the funds. And once those approvals, which we hope to get before the end of September here, assuming all goes well there, we will issue an RFP for a designer to come on board to say, this is what you need to do to dredge. And that during those discussions, once we hire a designer, once we hire a contract to actually do the work, those discussions will take place then in terms of how to properly not necessarily dispose of the dredge, because the idea is to use the dredge to build out some of the shorelines to have safer walking and biking paths. But to your point, the dredge is going to have to go somewhere between the time of dredging and the time of using it for the additional shoreline. And so we'll work with the engineers and the architects to make sure that is we put it in the least intrusive place as possible there, Ken.
One last question. Rachel DeResto would like to know, can you tell us about the economic impact study for BREC underway by Trust for Public Land?
Yes, and so one of the things I'm big on in terms of my tenure here as superintendent, in terms of our administration, is the ability to show performance measures, track data, and those sort of things like that. And so instead of me just coming on here and telling you how great parks are and why you should invest in it, and while we have some empirical data to share, we need more. And so we're working with the Trust for Public Land, which is the leader in basically parks and green space in terms of data and those sort of things. They're going to work with us on an economic impact study on a variety of areas in terms of recreational value, the value we provide in terms of health and medical industry, the environment, and a variety of other areas. And so they're on board now, and it's going to be a multi-year process because, again, there's about 7 different areas. But we're excited about being able to capture that data to provide back to you, the taxpayers, the investors, to show you exactly what your return on investment is whenever you decide to invest in parks and recreation. And I just have to, before we jump off, reiterate that now is the time that we need to double down really on our investments on park and recreations when we look at a global pandemic that is not caused by, but certainly high risk factors of obesity and diabetes and hypertension, high blood pressure. Our parks and recreational facilities have the solutions for that. I'm a testament to that, and I don't want to share too much in my medical history, but let's just say during the pandemic, I did a lot of walking, and I'm no longer taking a medication that I was taking before the pandemic. And so, just want to remind that people are using parks more than ever, but we want to be there to support and continue to maintain parks at a high level. We can only do that with your support. So thanks everybody for their investments, for their support. We just hope that you are satisfied with the return that we are providing, and look forward to continuing to do great things here in the parish.
Corey, really want to thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon, giving us the update, and we do hope to see you very soon back at Drusilla.
Yes, all right. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Hagan.
Thanks, Corey. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we close, do want to let you know next week's speaker will be Tommy Talley. He's going to be speaking about storytelling and framing stories. So remember, mask up, and we'll see you next week.